Let's look at Aave / US dollar. First off, read this disclaimer carefully and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. It's been a pretty nasty day in the market. There's been some major pullbacks. You can see it in cryptos, gold, the sectors, utilities holding up better than others. Megatrends, huge pullbacks. But, when you have huge moves to the upside, then you also need to expect reversion to the downside. Looking here at the economic signals, coal doing really well today, so there's definitively some, there are some places getting a bid. In this video, we will look at, I have no idea how it is pronounced, Aave or Aave, who knows. But anyway, it's an open source and non-custodial liquidity protocol for earning interest on deposits and borrowing assets. So this is part of the whole decentralized finance revolution. Here you can see the stakeholders. So all in all, this is a very, very interesting project for sure. Let's jump into the charts. So this is the long-term picture, weekly data points, and it's been on quite a spike, but we have seen a rather sizable pullback. So let's actually, if you look here at the correlation with the S&P 500, it is 64% positive. Looking here at the daily data points, it increases to 81%, so they are very much tied together. What I do find interesting about Aave at this point is this green 50-day moving average. Test, support. We are getting rejected here at a 20-day moving average. So the question is whether the 50-day will offer support if we pull back there again. Looking at the RSI, we are back to the neutral zone. And this is a place where buyers have stepped up here, as you can see in the past. Hence, given that we have had a major pullback, there is a support level right below us. I think we can very speculatively look here for a bullish opportunity. But it is very speculative because that moving average absolutely needs to offer support if we go back there. Because if we do slice below it, then it can very quickly become a resistance. And then maybe the 100-day. Or if that one fails, the 200-day. So yeah. The PPO has not been this low in quite some time, so we're definitively feeling the brunt here of a pullback. But looking long-term years into the future, I am bullish. Looking at the coming weeks, months, I'm speculatively bullish, but it's definitively contingent on that support level holding or any other support level. But it needs to be one of the key ones. Okay. Now let's look at some other cryptocurrencies, since we have some time. So let's look at Bitcoin, the big ol' daddy of them all. So Bitcoin, we are seeing now resistance here from the purple 20-day moving average. What was once support can become resistance. If we jump into the weekly data points, still the weekly RSI is elevated. It is still 70. We have seen times in the past where the weekly RSI just pulled back and then soared higher before we had one of those steeper pullbacks. So the big nagging question is what's happening here? Will this be like a bit of a pullback before we roar, or are we actually seeing something like this happening again? Because we have been overbought in the past and get even more overbought. And there's also been times where we have these very sizable, bear markets in the cryptos. Like this bear market here for Bitcoin lasted 200 and almost 60 days, and it was a minus 68-ish% pullback, which is rather sizable. So yeah, this is one of the problems with, these bubble-ish move, Ethereum. Yeah, the issue with the reason why I do not like bubbles is because they create problems. Let's look at Ethereum. Still, even here on the weeklies, the RSI is rather elevated historically. If you look here at the track record, been quite frequent that a very high RSI is followed by a very deep correction. I mean, even, yeah, let's measure this one as an example. That was a rather astonishing 94% plunge. Hence, when it comes to these cryptocurrencies, you definitively want to let your trend be your friend, and be very respectful of support levels. Like in this instance, I think we could make a case that the green 50-day moving average is quite important for Ethereum as well. You see that the bulls are fighting to get above it, because if you stay below it for too much time, then it very quickly can become a solid resistance level, and then the selling can accelerate. And to a large extent, that is also psychology, because if you put yourself in the mindset of being a bull, so you have a bullish position on Ethereum, and you know for a fact that the 50-day moving average, it usually, during a strong bull rally for Ethereum, it usually isn't inviolated. We don't slip below it. Hence, it makes sense as a bulls to get a bit panicky when we do slip below, when it goes from being a support to then becoming resistance. It is also, of course, possible to be short Ethereum, and then it flips. Then, when you see that, let's say here in this instance, the 50-day moving average go from being support to becoming resistance, it's in those situations where it makes sense to maybe add some to your bearish position. If you look here at the purple 20-day moving average, it was support. Now here, when you see that we go up here and test it and are heavily rejected, the reason why the selling accelerates is because of those effects. The bulls, they get a bit timid, which they should, and the bears, they add to their position. So the interesting thing is that you will see the nature of the articles around the cryptocurrencies change as well, and that is what I call the politics, or you could also compare it to the chess game behind the charts, because the bulls, they will also be activist, and the bears will also be activist, meaning they will push and release articles that support their thesis and that can move the security in the direction they want. And this is something that is very, very important to be aware of, because the biggest story, it actually happens behind the chart. And that is where the big money operates. The big money, they have a vision. They have a plan. And quite often what happens in the chart is like it's more of a consequence of what happens, behind the scenes. And definitively when it comes to cryptocurrency now, and I think that will accelerate going forward, is that we will really see the power politics get involved, because as it reaches for that critical mass, then it becomes a much more serious competitor to the incumbents, like fiat money especially.